Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by T.A. Forsberg and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So the hospitality industry employs a huge number of people, and like any industry, they require training and support. Here to discuss the work of the Hospitality Training Institute of Michigan is the president and CEO, Justin Winslow, and the vice president of communications and brand strategy, Emily Daunt. Welcome to the show, Justin and Emily.
Chris, thanks for having us. This is great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm excited about this topic, and as I mentioned off mic, I kind of stumbled into your existence. You know, you only really know about things that really impact you personally, but as I did research for this podcast, I'm really excited to dig into this. It's just, it seems like a really necessary role to be played. So I'm grateful that you're out there, and I'm looking forward to learning more. So can you share a little bit about what the mission of the Hospitality Training Institute of Michigan is?
Sure.
What are you set up to do?
We are a proprietary school licensed by the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. That's a fancy way of just saying we are an institute specifically for this industry, and our goal is to quickly upskill the many members of this industry to help meet what's a skills gap, I think, that exists right now in the hospitality industry. And we're excited about the launch.
Right. So you when we say the hospitality industry, the headlines kind of talk about that being a place where there is a talent gap. And in some cases where you have resort communities like a Traverse City or Petoskey or Mackinac Island or whatever, there's also housing challenge and compensation challenge. I mean, that's a huge puzzle that needs to be figured out. And granted, you guys probably don't need to deal with a lot of those chapters.
How much time you got, Chris? We can really get
but the talent need, right? I mean, certainly your customers want you to do your work as high in volume and as expeditiously as possible to create the employees for their vacant positions. So, when was your institute founded? When was it founded? What's your organizational setup? Are you a nonprofit, for-profit? Are you affiliated with like a community college? How does that all work?
You want to go?
Sure. Yeah. This idea came about, I would say, before 2020, but I would say that the pandemic threw gasoline on the entire concept because there was the hospitality industry that was decimated, and then had to put the people that they still had or still could employ into different managerial positions to just fill a need at the time. So now there's a skills gap there. And so our training fills that with things like operations, profit and loss statements, food safety certifications, conflict resolution, and just those different leadership.
Got it. And the industries you serve, I think that was the beginning of my last question. I got a little wordy. So what are we calling the hospitality industry? What types of organizations hire your graduates?
Excellent question. Restaurants, bars, hotels, resorts, anything that fits into that broader hospitality universe.
Got it. And when were you founded? When did this curriculum all get started?
Well, officially licensed by the state 2021, and we ran some pilot projects before really an aggressive full state launch just this year.
Got it. Okay. And this is all from a corpus of cash from LEO, Labor and Economic Opportunity. Are they the ones funding your work?
Yeah, we made a big push with the legislature and members of the administration that this industry took it harder, I think, than pretty much anyone during the pandemic. Lost at one point 65% of its workforce. It clawed back to something around 20% fewer jobs than it had before. But a lot of those people that were there were unprepared completely to be in positions of leadership within their organizations, within the restaurant or hotel. And they needed something quickly, which is the conceptual idea behind the HTIM. And so that's been the push and the launch so far.
Got it. And is it a brick and mortar campus or is it virtual and online? What's your setup?
Yes. No, it's both. The class itself is hybrid. So there are in-person classes right now in 18 different locations across the state of Michigan. So people physically going to some of these classes, but it's also online. So it meets you where you are and gives you some more flexibility. We know some of the learning is better in person.
Sure.
But we also know we need to work around people's lives and be flexible. So over the 12 weeks, you'll have a mix of both. Got
it. And while we're recording this in mid-Michigan and Lansing region, and you're, I guess funded and kind of set up as a governmental institution or quasi, there are pods around the state. You said 18 locations. So if you're listening to this in Saginaw or Traverse or Kalamazoo or
Holland or the Upper Peninsula.
Right. I mean,
shout out Marquette.
Yes.
And Escanaba.
It's the best city that's a little too far away. I love Marquette. But so people that are listening, can understand that this isn't like a college campus where you need to live in Lansing, Michigan to participate. You can be where you are and have this hybrid program and get it equally pretty much anywhere you are.
Yeah, ideally you're still working, right? And this
Right.
would be a day or days off that you are filling in that gap with taking some of these courses.
Got it. Okay. And so are there any kind of traditional students or applicants that you have show up, or is it all over the gamut? Because I think you see all walks of life in the hospitality industry, but just kind of curious if you have a typical customer.
Yeah, I think it's all over the place, including in any of those demographics. So age, or maybe you're out of the industry and you're getting back into it and looking to upskill. But yeah, it's open to anyone. And I think we maybe buried the punchline a little bit, but we're currently offering 2,000 classes at no cost. So
2,000.
Yeah, that's a $2,500 value. So statewide, there are 2,000 at no cost seats available. And then if you complete all of your certifications, we're offering a $500 stipend for participating. So didn't want to bury the lead too much on that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're certainly going to get to the nuts and bolts of your new offering. That's great to hear. So essentially, you're really trying to advocate to get more and more people in. It's not like you have a waiting list. I mean, I guess you want to encourage as many people as you can. And so this is kind of a scholarship with an opportunity for a bonus when you graduate.
Yeah. And we've been surprised by the demand. Obviously, when you make something free to them, you're going to get some interest. But we've been surprised by just how much, right? There were 1,100 applications that flooded in within just a couple of days of making this opportunity available. So we were pleasantly surprised. We tried to split that up across a couple different quarters, so we're not flooding the zone too aggressively,
right.
all in the first quarter here. But so I think that the important message to get across for any listeners here is that there is a limitation to how much we can offer here. The legislature was generous with what was a $10 million one-time stipend. We are trying to maximize the exposure to the industry we can with that resource, but it's a limited timeline, and we know once we hit 2,000, we're going to be done. So 1,100 out of the gate already. Hopefully people will sign up quickly because there is a limitation here.
So if you hurry up, you can get this training for free.
Yes.
And with a little nugget on the way out, right? The $500 if you pass all the certification, whatever you're, and is there a wide variety of curriculum that they can kind of choose from? It's like, I want to be in food service, or I want to be in entry level management in a hotel, or like, are there chapters of a course load?
Yeah, that's the goal. Eventually, currently, we're offering our 12-week hospitality business management certificate, which teaches some of those things I talked about earlier, but it's a very well-rounded curriculum.
Relevant to both restaurants and hotels.
Yeah, and we're seeing equally hotels and restaurants signing up, and their employers investing in training too.
Makes
through
sense. I mean, and to have been founded in 2021 and to be where you are is impressive. So I don't mean to push you into you're not doing enough, because I mean that's amazing that you have all of that. And when you can you rattle off kind of those skill sets that they had? You talk about conflict resolution and food safety, and what other ones kind of went into that bucket?
Yeah, the curriculum covers financial management, creating an optimal guest experience, building and leading a team, so there's leadership skills that are important, handling conflict, food safety certifications, nationally recognized certifications that you get coming out of this, and then the mental health and employee engagement component as well.
So I mean, other than food safety, honestly, pretty much anyone would probably benefit.
Yeah, it's got all the hard skills and soft skills. You need both to succeed in this industry, and the soft skills sometimes get pushed to the side, or people just think that they're intuitive, but there's a lot to how you build a team, how you treat that team, and then how you deal when you have this many people together all the time. Sometimes you run into conflict. How do you manage and deal with these situations in a constructive way? And that's in the class as well.
Got it. Okay. And you mentioned quickly that it was a 12-week thing. So so my brain immediately thinks curriculum. So it's like spring semester, winter semester. And if I'm a listener and hearing this in, say, late January or early February, it's like, oh, I missed this semester. Do I have to wait until August? And so you cycle through. Do you have kind of 4 kind of cohorts a year?
Yeah, quarterly, with the exception of Escanaba and Mackinac Island. Those classes start in March. So if you have listeners from those areas, get in now. But beyond that, we have an April start date, July and October. So there is time. But we really wanted to make it accessible for this industry, 12 weeks, where you can hit it hybrid, 6 in person, 6 virtual. And it can really build around your schedule, which has to be flexible in this industry.
Got it. And then conclusion, I'll ask you this again, but for people who are like, okay, great. Where do I go? What's this organization called again? Tell us where people can apply. I assume it's through your website.
Yeah. So it's the Hospitality Training Institute of Michigan, but HTIM.com.
Perfect. Excellent. And I'm going to take a second to thank one of my sponsors. When it comes to managing your finances and planning for your future, I suggest you contact my friends at Wagoner Financial. Whether you're just getting started, getting ready to retire, or anywhere in between, Wagoner Financial can help you make smart financial decisions. Don't navigate these complex problems on your own. Wagoner has the expertise to help you feel confident that you're making the right financial choices. Contact an advisor by calling 517-853-3367 or visit their website at wagoner-financial.com. You will not regret it. So, is it super competitive to get in to this course loaded? Or, I mean, I would imagine you have a cap, right? But, I mean, are you pretty much able to accommodate most people that apply? And do most people apply kind of get it? Like, is it a space limitation, or is it like a competitive, competency assessment before you let some of these folks in, like a university would be?
There's not a written component where we will review, right? You're applying if you are in and you meet the basic standards of working in the industry and living in the state of Michigan, right? That is actually a pretty important component of how the resources came in and how they need to be spent. You're going to qualify, and so it's really more. It's more of if you meet some of those basic first in, and we'll get you through the course. One thing I wanted to hit on that we maybe danced around is just how much opportunity is there that can't be filled, and why we think this 12-week course is it versus a 2-year degree at a community college, which is great. And we want people in this industry getting that level of expertise. And certainly something like an MSU School of Hospitality Business is world renowned.
Yep.
That also needs to exist. But there's a large workforce that is in between, where 12 weeks is exactly the kind of quick upskilling, right? Just to give you a sense, right now, 434 restaurant management jobs are available, right? Posting in the state of Michigan right now with an average salary of $70,000 a year plus benefits. That's great. There's a lot of people that would love that opportunity, and they just don't have the skill set.
Right.
And so this is hopefully trying to meet some of that demand. Very similar numbers on the hotel side of the equation as well.
Got it. Okay. And so we've already talked a little bit about the offerings, and that's a new kind of corpus of money, right? To allow 2,000 students to come in without any kind of cost to them, right? Tuition fee. Without that, what kind of cost is it for them to go through a 12-week program?
Yeah, the standard cost is $2,500 for the 12-week program. So it's a significant discount for now. So get in while you can. And I will say, while the requirements aren't high, like when you think about a 4-year college that you might be applying to, that space is limited for the current offering. So that's something to keep in mind. And the only other requirement I will add beyond being a Michigan resident is you have to have a high school diploma or GED.
Got it. Okay. No, that's good to know. Do you have any folks applying, to your knowledge, that are already employed maybe by an organization and said, Freddie is currently just a dishwasher part-time, but he's got a lot of opportunity to excel, and I'm his employer and I've got room up the ladder from him, so maybe I'll even give him tuition assistance and he can pay me back over time, or if he stays with me, he doesn't have to repay it or any of that kind of stuff. Do you find that happening?
Absolutely, yeah. Operators are investing in the employees they currently have so that they can retain them, because retention is also a problem within the hospitality industry. So they're investing, and then we have a component of the curriculum that allow employers to follow along and access the portal if they're maybe sponsoring their employee or something like that. We provide them with tasks and a rundown of what they're learning that week, and then practice problems, so to say, in the real world, in their restaurant or hotel or wherever that may be, that they can work with that employee on. So the data shows that when you invest in your teams, they'll invest in you, and they'll stick with you. So yeah, we're seeing engagement from the employer side as well.
And if you look at these employers with the soft costs of turnover and having to rehire and retrain and all that stuff, this is probably an investment that makes a lot of sense if they can swing it.
Now you've got me triggered in a good way, right? This is where I get on my soapbox, because I feel like our smart operators who get it, who see that there has been a change in the structure of the workforce in this industry and what they're going to need to do to have the type of a team they need, is changing and they're adapting to the times. We're hopeful that more employers in this industry recognize that these times have changed, that they're going to need to provide a ladder of opportunity, provide something, even if it's succinct in 12 weeks like this opportunity is. This is how you keep a team. This is how you grow a team, that make them feel rewarded, that they think that there's an opportunity and a career here, not just your first job. And part of our mission through this, and Emily is right, some of our best employers get it already. Our job, I feel, through this as well, is to make sure more of the industry understands that this is what the new table stakes is to exist and have the type of workforce you're going to need to succeed going forward. And so we're building it, but it's slow going early.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you have a network of hospitality partners that helped you really understand what the needs are of their industry to help drive the curriculum, or like a board of directors that are maybe made up of these kinds of senior leaders in this industry?
Yeah, every single day, right? This is the concept for us that was predated COVID, was based on our interaction with our 6,500 members, our board of directors that is sharing their concepts of where their struggle, where their pain points are every day. And so we're trying to meet where those pain points are, because it really did. The concept of the HTIM is that there's nothing meeting this short-term need for real specific training, especially if you're on the smaller independent side. You just don't have that corporate training module in place to help you out. So yeah, this is really driven from real-time conversations with our members in the industry. That's
great. And you mentioned 6,500 members. Is that of HTIM?
That is of the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association.
Perfect. Okay. Yes. Which is great, because that's a running start, right?
Absolutely.
The fact that group already exists, that totally makes a lot of sense. I was going to say that's a heck of an outreach in a couple of years during a pandemic to get people to
1,100 applications quick is impressive. 6,500 would be actually almost alarming and concerning.
We wouldn't be doing this interview potentially.
We meet this demand, right?
You talked a little bit about, it's a 12-week training program. You mentioned that some of your, hopefully most of your students, we'll call them, are employed. So what does that time, over the 12 weeks, how many hours a week, or what does that look like from a time requirement?
Yeah, I believe 3 to 4 hours is the instruction time once a week, every week for 12 weeks.
Okay.
And then I believe it's a few hours of additional homework, essentially,
like reading
case studies and testing for those certifications that you get coming out of the programming. So there's testing and studying involved with that. But we really, I said it before, but really wanted to make it flexible and tuned into something that would really work for this industry, because it's not the same as a desk job in front of a computer.
Right. But I think that's good to know for the listeners, to know that this isn't going to break their backs, right? This isn't, 20 hours a week and another 15 hours of studying, and then you got a 40-hour a week job and you got a family and you've got kids or whatever. So this is very manageable.
Absolutely.
Just get in, do the work, and that's great. So we talked about, employers sponsoring their employees from a retention standpoint, but on the other side of that coin, do you have a job placement kind of program? How do you match make people who are graduates and kind of help them maybe push out there and find a place to land?
Yeah, we provide resources for those that maybe currently aren't in the industry or getting back into it. We have a job board through the MRLA where our members post and non-members can post to that job board. So we connect them through that. And the instructors can help them be placed as well, the HTIM instructors.
Got it. So how many graduating classes have you had? Like, how long has your curriculum been live? I mean, founded in 2021, quarterly cycles. I would imagine that this quarter will probably look a little different than what it looked like 18 months ago, or, you probably continually are refining it to be even better.
We've got about 150 total graduates through the program already, through a couple different pilot programs. One through with Boyne Resorts up north to get a sense on the resort side. How could we interact properly? One early on in the Midland area. And then one down here in Lansing, where there's some great case studies already, right? Austin, who was at our press conference the other day, is the manager at Bordeaux now, inside the name?
Crown Plaza,
the Crown
Lansing
Plaza,
West.
Lansing
Yeah,
West.
okay. Yeah.
It sometimes changes names. Great hotel, and he was one of the early students in the class, graduated, and then shortly thereafter elevated. He's the manager of the restaurant now. He was not before. Attributes some of his success to what he learned in the course, so that's fantastic.
That's great. And having those testimonials, I think, will go a long way. I don't know if you throw that out on social or LinkedIn or whatever, a little case study to hear someone's success, I think would fan the flames of your enrollment. That's fantastic. Okay. And then, like anything, if you're going to be funded, there's going to be an expectation of results. And I know it's all kind of really still ramping up, but how do you plan to measure results and get feedback from the employers and say, hey, these people that you're hiring, are you satisfied with what they're getting, or are they still short in a certain skill set that we should add to the next cohort's curriculum to make them more well-rounded? How does that
Yeah, I think we have some pretty comprehensive reporting requirements, and we hold ourselves to a higher standard, I think, than even that, because we need not for this to be a one-year opportunity to flood the zone with state dollars that were one time. We want to use this to build the foundation long-term. So we, and through our partners at Plante Moran, who have been helping us build out the logistics, are really... We're qualifying all the metrics we possibly can, and we'll be, once this full cohort is through at Q1, really digging deep into the data of what we need to do to make Q2, 3, and 4 even stronger, because we're learning on the fly as we're doing this as well. We believe in what we're doing, but we're also pretty new to this game ourselves. So I think there's a lot to be learned by what's going on right now. And we'll be putting that to use to make this program sustainable well past the resources.
Good, because that was going to be one of the questions I ask is, is this kind of a temporary, do you think your
Fingers
organization,
crossed, no.
HTIM will survive and just continue to evolve and modify, but you hope
I think the demand is there.
Time.
It's clear that there's demand from the industry, from its workforce, to do and be something more than they are right now. And I think for it to be successful, it's going to need to be a combination of employers in this industry writ large, not just this small cohort of people who really get it, willing to engage and make some investment when necessary to grow their teams. Because you had mentioned this earlier, those transition costs of having to bring in new employees and train those employees costly, and you lose efficiency during that time period. That is where I think we've got work to do, and that's where we're focusing a lot of our energy.
Makes sense. And you mentioned Plante Moran, obviously great brand. You see them around. They're great, kind of stewards of philanthropy and assistance and those kinds of things. Are there any other organizations that kind of help you in other ways? You mentioned Leo, obviously, is your kind of parent and your governmental entity that's helping you get this going. Plante Moran. Who else maybe is helping you through this?
Yeah, we're working with Martin Waymeyer here in Lansing, a PR firm, and then Brogan and Partners to work on the marketing as well. So when you see the visuals of hospitality employees stepping on tables, it's intentional to be a disruptor, and we're telling you to step up your career through the HTIM. So
got it. All right. Well, it's a fascinating topic. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to deliver to our audience before we go?
I think we've about covered it. HTIM.com, HTIM.com. The application is pretty straightforward and can be accomplished in 5 minutes. So just encourage everyone to check that out. Save your spot at least.
That's exactly right. Even if you don't think you are eligible to take this course until later in this year, maybe even early next year, we do have through Q2 of next year to get these trainings in. Sign up now while it's still available. Get that $500 stipend. Get the free training now, because we're pretty confident we're going to hit that 2,000 well in advance of that timetable.
And that's fantastic. And just as another reminder is that regardless of where you're listening to this, it's probably within geographic reach for you to be able to participate, regardless of what corner of the state you're in.
That has been our goal.
That's fantastic. Well, I got to tell you, it's been fascinating. I'm really glad we made this work. We've been speaking with the president and CEO, Mr. Justin Winslow, and the vice president of communications and brand strategy, Emily Daunt, from the Hospitality Training Institute of Michigan, HTIM.com. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.